Shabbat Shalom. First, it's a great pleasure. Oh, okay, people, eu vou falar um pouquinho em inglês. No, explaining, Julia, I have to explain them that I'm going to talk a little bit in English so that we can have a chat, a talk, a conversation. Eu vou falar, Andréia, vamos falar com a Rabina Julia Margolis em inglês. Ela é da África do Sul, Rabina da África do Sul. Esse é um Shabat que a gente está compartilhando junto. Então, vamos ter uma conversa. Vai ser em inglês. Eventualmente, se a compreensão não ficar clara para todos, há dois pontos. O primeiro pode sempre ser visto depois no YouTube, que vai estar gravado. E segundo, vamos buscar realizar alguma tradução para quem precisar. Então, posterior. É uma maneira de estender também o Shabbat. Okay. First, it's a great pleasure to have you here, Rabbi Julia, and in this Friday evening service. I know that it's very late.
Thank you so much for having me and inviting us.
Yeah, I know it's very late there. Maybe it's already, already morning, after midnight. So maybe it's early, not too late, too early. Okay. So on my behalf and on behalf of my colleagues, Andrea, Andre, and Nace, and also on behalf of our synagogue congregation, thanks. Thank you for being here, for joining us. And by the way, double thanks. Double because it's the second service of welcoming the Shabbos we share. And not two different Shabbatot, but the same very Shabbat we share. It's quite amazing. But it's the second because when it was 1 o'clock here in Brazil, in Rio, 6 p.m. there, we joined Beit Luria's Shabbat. It was fantastic, amazing. And I would like to share with you how important it was for all of us and also for me personally. Today morning, I was really, really exhausted. Not exhausted because of our rabbinic around-the-clock routine, not exhausted because I had to prepare for Shavuot. If I were tired for these reasons, it would have been fine. But I was exhausted because I could barely sleep. It was indeed a sleepless night due to the concern of what is going on in Israel and surroundings. And I exchanged many messages in order to get information, worried about what is going on with my relatives, my friends, and I was eager to know what was possible for us here in Brazil as a Jewish community to do. But after sharing the service at Beit Luria, I felt I was reborn. I was, let us say, renovated. Although physically tired, spiritually fortified. That is the Jewish journey. Together, we strengthen each other. Indeed, our synagogue and your synagogue are an ocean apart. An ocean apart, but very, very close in mutual support. And I'm confident that all of us are energized by this connection. Having said that, please share with us your personal journey and tell us a little bit about your synagogue, about Beit Luria.
Thank you so much, Rabbi. You really touched my heart, and we were really privileged to have you all with us. And thank you for your warm words. And I presume maybe we should, start a new tradition and to make it not once a year when, or once in 2 years when there is a connection conference, but to make it in a more usual event and to share more things between us. And I agree with you, because you mentioned during our services is that we might be very, very far away physically, and there are thousands of kilometers between us, but both synagogues and both communities are very, very similar to each other. And as I was saying earlier, is that when 20 years ago, when I came to your synagogue, and I felt at home, because there were, for example, melodies that I grew up in the Reform movement in Israel. And it's this idea of continuation and of the familiar melodies and texts that makes it so special. You wanted me to talk a little bit about myself. I was born in Moscow, in former Soviet Union, and when I was 12 years old, my parents moved to Israel, and this is where I grew up. My mother is a rabbi, and I grew up in the movement. My mother is first female Russian speaking rabbi that was ordained in Israel. And and I always saw beauty in the Reform movement, and I saw many possibilities for women and men, and how beautiful Judaism can be shown, and how beautiful Judaism can be represented to the next generation. And I went to the army. I am officer at IDF, and when I finished my service, I was able to go and to work at the summer camp, the Progressive Reform summer camp in America. And this is where I knew 100% that I want to be a rabbi, and I want to try and bring some difference to the society. And my journey started with that. I completed first degree, second degree. I studied rabbinical school in Israel, and then I met my husband, and I moved to South Africa. And while I was already in South Africa, I was blessed to have amazing teachers and friends, and I completed my ordination already living in South Africa, and I received my smicha from Abraham Geiger College in Berlin. In 2000, actually it started in 2016 at my home, in our living room, that we had this maybe in a way crazy idea of starting a new shul in the area that I live, because there is no progressive shul here, and people had to drive quite far away to different shuls, and we were just blessed with people that pushed me to continue, and to have it. And in 2019, we became officially 11th progressive synagogue in South Africa, and we are the youngest. And we became also part of South African Union of Progressive Judaism, of World Union of Progressive Judaism. And, as they say, the rest is the history. I think we are very, very blessed. And we were talking a bit about challenges and about, not everything always goes smoothly, but and you mentioning about being tired and sleepless nights, and in the end of the day, when you know what is the cause and why we have those sleepless nights, then it makes it worth. And when you have this crazy drive, and when you have this passion, and some people, say it's a calling. Some people say I don't consider it to be a job. Many people said, if you wanted to be rich, don't be a rabbi. That's for sure true. I see that you're smiling because you know exactly what I'm talking about. But we might not be rich with material things and with bank account, but I think by doing what we love, we are being very rich and blessed with different qualities and different things that enrich our life and make it worth. And actually, after our service this morning, whatever part of the day it was, Alan Worcester from America that joined us, he sent me a message because my youngest daughter, she's 7.5, once said, I think I want to be a rabbi, but I don't want to be a rabbi. There are too many meetings. So I think it kind of summarizes sometimes our life, but as I said, it's all worth it.
Yeah, it's worth it. I hope so. So you told us that you were born in Russia and then you moved to Israel. As I remember, there's a very interesting story there. And then after high school, you went to the army.
Yes.
And you worked there. And then afterwards, you studied history and Islam, right? And so how and arts, it's like
exactly.
But how did the army made influence the choices that you made in your life? Does it still, having been in the army, still influences you in like in the studies or in the, you make a wonderful interfaith work there. I know you have, she always posts like a rabbi and a priest went to a bar or something like that. Her life seems like a joke, but it's not. It's really serious. So tell us more about it.
Yes, it's um, you really put me on the spot here. No, it's fine. It's fine. I will be honest with you. I think, for example, the importance for me of interfaith work is coming not just because I went to the army, yes, but also because of my parents and because of the ideas of inclusiveness and because this is how we should live and this is how the Torah tells us to live. And when we read V'ahavta l'racha kamocha and you love your fellow human being as yourself, you can't just say it. You have to do it halacha l'maaseh, the tachlis, the real thing. You can't stand and preach, but you have to do it in your life. And my best friends, some of them, they're not Jewish. So great. They love coming to our house and celebrate Jewish festivals with us. We love to come to them because we want the children, and we will embrace the beauty of being in a way different, but also to see how much we have in common. And I think this is why when I came to South Africa, it started to be so important to me, because obviously when you live in Israel and you're surrounded by people that think the same and as you are, and you are the majority, it's easy. But how do you live when you have other people? And this is why I am trying to promote and I'm trying to learn and to teach to other communities about beauty of Judaism and to learn about other communities. And I have to say also, when we were talking in one of our conversations, and we said how similar community in South Africa and Jewish community in Brazil is that in South Africa, Jewish community is very, very conservative. And you need, I didn't think it will be so hard to open their minds a little bit. But if we're succeeding in doing it, then I'm happy. Then it means something, something works in that respect. We love the idea of, rabbi, I don't know, imam and bishop met for coffee and had conversation. And I really, really think it's beautiful because there are much more common things than we see when we speak to each other and when we sit and, have a cup of tea, coffee, wine, whatever religion allows us.
Great.
Yes, so what you have just said bring maybe us to Shavuot. Shavuot, it's approaching, we are going to celebrate. And the night of study at Shavuot we call Tikkun Leil Shavuot. Tikkun means to fix, to repair, to rectify, and is one of our missions to try to do our best to letaken, to rectify, to fix the broken vessels of life. But it's a challenge when you say that our Jewish communities are very conservative. Indeed, you said your Jewish community is conservative, but I added our, okay? But when I say conservative, when I read conservative here, I'm not talking about conservative religiously speaking. I'm talking about the way of living. Maybe, just a guess, I have not studied this issue deeply, that it's because there is so much segregation in our countries. Social gaps, segregation. So how can we, sometimes I feel very weak, should we fight against this mentality? Shouldn't we leave Judaism only inside the synagogue, okay, ritually speaking, and then and don't get tired, exhausted, and save our efforts to persuade people to letaken, to fix the world's problems when they feel very comfortable with their conservative mind and justify, that's sometimes amazing, but justify the segregation. And they justify the segregation under religious ground. So, the song, the melody, Kol Olam Tsar Geshet Tsar Me'od, everything looks like a very narrow bridge. Do you think that we rabbis can enlarge these narrow bridges when the society is very narrow-minded, when the Jewish community is very narrow-minded? If you don't have
question.
Okay, it's just, I'm sharing it with you. Okay, it's
Can I?
Talk. Yeah,
it's a very good question. I think we do, and I think we have to, and this is our own spiritual tikkun olam, because it would be, for me, for example, much easier just to be in this narrow bridge and not to try and change anything, or not to try and change people's minds and their ideas. But then, was I true to myself? Was I true to the teachings? Was I true to my movement? So, and maybe there is a difference, and I presume there is a difference between community in Brazil and here in South Africa, and I'm talking about Jewish community, is that many people, for example, in South Africa, maybe they are not very religious in their way of living, what we will say, or maybe they're not orthodox in the way they're living. The mindset is different. The mindset that from generation to generation, this is how it's supposed to be, and we cannot change anything, and we should not change anything. And this is what I see it here. And again, I can continue and to be part of it and to say, you know, I will have my nights with sleep, and I will have my ideas and you will have your ideas, and etc., etc. Or I can try, and I'm not, you know, converting anyone, but I want to try and explain to them, to show them different way of being Jewish and having Jewish life. And this is what I always loved in progressive movement in Israel, that slogan, Yesh yoter miderech echad liot Yehudi. There is more than one way to be a Jew. And this is what I think in South Africa, I see it as one of my, you know, missions, let's call it that way, just to show people that we are all reading from the same scroll, we're having the same psalms, the same prayers, and when many times, for example, if I will be doing a funeral and people will say, oh wow, Rabbi, we didn't know that those are the same psalms, because no one ever read them in English, for example. And I will say, but I want you to understand the Psalms. This is why I will read them in English, because it's very important that you will know what's happening and not only do whatever Rabbi said in Hebrew and because he knows the best. Because I believe that it's a partnership between us. And so this is how I see it here. I would love to hear, I don't know if we have time now or maybe one day, that you will tell me more about your experience.
Yeah, a good conversation is when it does not finish. Okay, yeah, so we don't have plenty of time here. Maybe one more question, Andrea, and certainly after your answer, you will have to do it again, as you said. Okay, more talks, more conversation, more sharing, more learning together. Whether we like different styles or not, is always important to be exposed to them and learn and think about that. Okay, that's how we open our minds and hearts, not only to each other, but to ourselves too. Okay, Andrea.
So, last one. We met in 2017 in Connections in Jerusalem. You had your dream. You were the only female rabbi in South Africa, and you had no congregation at that time, and you wanted a congregation. Your dream came true through your hands. It's amazing.
Thank you.
I had my dream, and I'm baderech. I'll get there. So the thing is, if you are allowed to have a big, big dream right now, what would it be?
Oh my God. Andrea, I thought we're friends. You could have told me that you're going to ask me these huge questions. Oh, you really caught me here. There are many dreams on a professional level, on a personal level. You're right, and I did not have a congregation, but I had this crazy dream, and I think it's to show yourself that you can establish a dream and you can make it happen, and yes, perhaps maybe I'm, smallest congregation. Actually, I'm not sure about that in South Africa, but we the youngest, and maybe we don't have, I don't know, huge, beautiful building and, things like that. But I do know that whatever we do, we're doing it from all our hearts, and people that come to the services, they're committed to the ideas of progressive Judaism, and they're also a bit crazy like me. So we all, share quite lots of commonality. So my big dream is that, of course, and I will not be, it's not a cliche to say that I wish this pandemic will be finished as soon as possible and we will be able to go to regular services on one hand. On another hand, in this curse of the pandemic, I also find a lot of blessings. And for example, service like tonight, or services that we have, and I have people from United States, from Australia, from Ireland, from England. I mean, it would not be possible if we were thinking about it a year and a half ago, when everything was, the old-fashioned way, and we had physical services. We never shared services online, and perhaps in the beginning it felt, we were even talking about, can we even recite Kaddish? Because is it even real? Because you don't have physically people with you. But as time progressed, I think we all felt that God is here, God is with us, and we need to learn where to find this, the spiritual moment, and where to find the ability to see the blessing in the curse. But my big dream is that people will be more open-minded. My big dream is that people will allow themselves, as Rabbi Sergio said, to open their hearts and their minds to see different ways of being spiritual, of being religious, of being Jewish.
Okay,
Great,
thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
I have two additional dreams right now. One, we do it again online. But second, honestly speaking, physically, we go there and you come here. Both ways, online and physically.
Perfect.
Links.
Absolutely perfect.
Okay, hopefully next time we are not only going to share the links, fine to share the links, but also the tickets.
Okay? We can do both, exactly.
Both ways. Okay, so thank you to Darabá,
Thank you.
And now, people, let us follow. Vamos continuar com Barihu, recebendo aqui nossas orações desse dia santificado do Shabat. Que esse papo, essa conversa tenha inspirado todo mundo. I've just said I hope that our conversation has inspired everybody, because certainly has inspired me.